The United States is being torn apart by partisan politics. Every single election cycle, this divide grows deeper. And this exact same thing happened in China's Song Dynasty 1,000 years ago. Around that time, the struggle became so toxic that the emperors afterwards never dared to touch economic reforms. This partisan struggle crippled an empire, and we're seeing the same signs today. The two factions in the Song Dynasty are the reformers and the conservatives. By the end of this video, you won't need me to explain the parallels. You'll see them for yourself. The Song Dynasty is known for its relatively free market. Some Chinese might even argue that capitalism, or at least an early form of capitalism, originated in China during that period of time. To give some examples, the first paper currency in the world is from year 1023 during this period. Also in Song Dynasty, joint stock companies are formed. People will invest their money before the trade ship sails, and get their return of investment when the ships come back. However, just like we are seeing today, free market is great at making the pie bigger, but not great at splitting the pie fairly. Around year 1050, government spending started to get out of hand. The oligarchs own more and more land and pays less and less taxes. For the commoners, it is harder and harder to own land because they are living paycheck to paycheck. The reformers understand if the system keeps going, nothing will change until the communists riot. And the leader Wang Anshi has gained the experience from his years in local government, and he clearly points out the problem. The commoners had to borrow high-interest loans during challenging times from the oligarch. And Wang is ready to bet with everything he owned and solve the problem with his life. He famously said, "Fear not the signs of heaven, break free from the old traditions, and ignore the noise of critics." The Shen Emperor of Song respected Wang's bravery, character, and brilliance. The same year the Shen Emperor took reign, he asked Wang to begin his reform. Wang told the emperor that this reform is going to increase government spending, but the reform will soon pay for itself. How? The most important part of the reform is called the Green Sprout Law. This law allows the government to loan money or food to commoners at 20% interest rate. With this law, commoners doesn't have to borrow from the oligarchs with interest rate that can be as high as 100%. Even better, this not only makes the commoners work harder because they own the land they work on, it also increases government earning by collecting interest rate. These drastic policies soon caused anxieties in the conservatives. Their leader Sima Guang, who praised Wang before his new policies, started writing to Wang and the emperor about the problem these new policies are causing. He wrote that these new policies that you're executing bypasses the current government agencies in order to achieve your own goals. And the Green Sprout Law is clearly government overreach. It is a predatory government intervention. In traditional Confucius ideologies, the only goal for the government should be lowering taxes. This Green Sprout Law raises taxes and it competes with fellow residents for profit. And true leadership should follow righteousness, not profits. And money should be in the hands of people, not the government. And also, guess how your new policies are doing? Green Sprout Law should be a voluntary loan that is low interest. But your men are putting transportation costs and managing costs on top of the interest, making the interest rate as high as 60 to 70%. Beyond that, now your men are forcing the people to take the loan so that they can make a profit. If the people cannot pay the loan back, they and their neighbors would all go to jail, These programs are so inefficient and corrupt, the cons outweighs the pro vastly. Wang, I respect you for your character, honesty, and bravery, but these policies are only going to make people's lives worse. To respond, Wang wrote a letter to combat Sima's argument. He stated that I have learned a lot from our days together in the government. Unfortunately, you're just too indoctrinated and too close-minded to make any change. You said that I have bypassed government agencies. But what I am doing is simply improving governance structure. And this chasing profit argument is nonsense. I'm helping the country's finances. And what you are trying to do is pleasing the populace preferences and protect the interest group that are currently profiting. If I ever listen to your advices, nothing will ever be done. Notice how Wang never mentioned the execution problems that Sima had mentioned. Interestingly, in his private letter to the Shen Emperor, he admitted these problems. He wrote, "Without proper execution and personnel, even the best policies will be tools that hurt the people." The Shen Emperor picked Wang to start the reform from the first year he ascended to the throne. With the pushback from the conservatives, the emperors doubled down on Wang's new policies. And the conservatives were all pushed out of the capital. They're out of the central governance structure. In his political exile, Sima Guang spent 19 years to compile 1400 years of Chinese history in the book 资治通鉴, also known in English as Comprehensive Reflection in Aid of Governance. This is his way to express how important history and tradition is. This is one of the most defining books totaling 3 million characters in Chinese literature, history, and philosophy. Yet, an English translation is not available. Wang's journey wasn't so smooth either. His reforms saw early financial success, but soon caused turmoil without the help of the conservatives. The conservatives constitute half of the honest and upright officials in the central government. But now, they're all pushed out of the talent pool. So Wang had to lower his standards to hire talents for this reform. And the execution problem that Sima had brought up is getting worse. After 16 years, the financial environment is so bad, more and more people cannot afford to live. And the Shen Emperor passed away. The new emperor is not fond of Wang, so he kicked Wang out and got Sima back in. After gaining the power back, Sima quickly abolished all the new policies that Wang had adopted, even the policies that have been proven to benefit both the people and the government. And from that point on, partisan politics is at its worst. The reformers and the conservatives never agree on anything. Once one side gains power, they purge the other party from the central government. No policies can last longer than the party that holds power. And the people suffer the most from this political struggle, because there were no coherent goal in the central government. And this partisan politics lasted 50 years until the Northern Song dynasty collapsed, and the Song had to endure the humiliation of Jin Kang. Even during the reform, Sima and Wang showed great respect to each other. One time, Wang received a copy of Sima's writing criticizing his reform. He hung the copy on his wall and said, "Sima's writing are truly the classics, comparable to the Western Han dynasty." When Wang passed away, Sima fought for Wang's title and reputation from the emperor, and said, "Wang's reform failure is purely due to his naivety. He is too exuberant to get accepted by fellow upright and critical gentlemen. But his bravery and brilliance needs to be remembered." 5 months later, Sima died in the same year. Wang and Sima's rivalry sure was brutal, but they kept it civil and professional for their entire lives. Their successors' political struggle degenerates into personal attacks and name-calling. I always felt the most important lesson we can draw from this period is when partisan political struggle intensifies, how narrow-minded and short-sighted we often can be. If Wang and Sima had an open discussion about improving the reform policies, can the collapse of Northern Song Dynasty be avoided? If so, what about US politics now?